Right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing Act 2003 subcommittee meeting. Before we go through the agenda items, I'll first read out the chairman's introduction. So, this is a meeting of the council held in public. It's not a public meeting. There's no fire drill planned. So, if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the nearest exit. The exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. We are recording the meeting this morning using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will also be available on the council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. And with that now completed, we'll then run through the agenda items. So I think agenda item 1 is apologies for absence, but Suzanne, there's no apologies for absence there. So we'll then move on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that any members of the subcommittee would like to declare? No. Okie dokie. So agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on Wednesday the 8th of October 2025. For the formality, we'll go to a vote on this. So all those in favour of I suppose kind of adopting those minutes as a true and accurate record. Those in favour, and then abstentions.
Abstain. I'll work here.
So thank you, Terry. So you've got that down, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So agenda item 4, the Licensing Act 2003 subcommittee hearing procedure, as detailed on page 9 of the agenda report pack. I won't run through the detail of kind of all of them, but as you can see, there's 10 steps from opening the hearing. I then will hand over to the licensing officer to present their report. Then, of course, we'll then hand over to you as the applicant to present your case. Obviously, usually at that point, if there's any responsible authorities or other persons, we'd then hand over to them. But I don't believe there are today. So then, obviously, there'll be a discussion amongst committee members and a summing up before there'll be kind of an opportunity for any final clarifications. And then at that point, the subcommittee will withdraw to consider the evidence that's been presented with the governance officer and the legal officer to obtain any kind of legal advice if required. And then at that point, the final step 10, will then bring you all back in the room and we'll announce the results. So with that, the procedure then kind of run through there. So we'll move on to agenda item 5, Licensing Act 2003, application for a premises licence, Christie's Bar, 93 to 95 High Street, Billericay. And then, as I say, to open the hearing, I think we'll do a short round of introductions, although obviously you may remember us from the last meeting. So to introduce myself, Councillor Andy Ansell, the Chairman of the Licensing Committee, and we'll go to my right before then going around the room on my left. So over to you, Val.
Councillor Valerie Robbins as Vice Chair of Licensing.
Councillor Terry Sargent.
Teo Hassan.
And Suzanne Sinclair, Senior Governance Officer.
So I'm Alexandra Mascus, I'm the Licensing Manager.
I'm Roy Robinson, I'm a Licensing Officer.
I'm Lee Munyard, I'm Director of Christie's Bar.
I'm Director of Christie's Bar as well.
Grant Morris, I'm a Director of Christie's Bar also.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This is a reconvened meeting, obviously, that we started on October the 8th. The reason it was adjourned was due to the request to have it adjourned by Environmental Health Pollution Team to receive the noise report from the applicant, which they have now received. They've considered it and they have now, Environmental Health Pollution, have now withdrawn their representation against this application, so the report will be slightly different from what's actually written. So I'll now carry on, Chairman. The purpose of this report is for the subcommittee to consider an application for a premises licence at 93 to 95 High Street, Billericay. On the 18th of August 2025, the licensing authority received an application for a premises licence from Christie's Bar Limited. The application and premises plan are shown at enclosure 2 and relates to 93-95 High Street, Billericay, and has been accepted as being properly made. The application has been advertised in accordance with the relevant regulations. In the report, it clearly states the relevant request for licence of activity and the times for those activities and the opening hours of the premises. The premises licence, if granted, will include all mandatory conditions required by legislation, as well as those proposed in the applicant's operating schedules and those agreed with Essex Police and those now agreed with the Environment Health Pollution team. During the statutory 28-day consultation period, the licence authority received 5 representations from other persons. Copies of the representations are attached at enclosure 4, obviously taking into account that the representation from Environment Health has now been withdrawn. Thank you, Chairman.
Lovely, thank you for that. Roy, before I kind of go to the subcommittee members for any clarifications or questions they may have from your report, I think it's, am I right in thinking there's the Environmental Health have agreed 2 conditions with the applicant. Could you just expand on those 2 conditions, please, particularly for the benefit of the committee and for anyone watching as well?
Thank you, Chairman. The Environmental Health have agreed with the applicant for additional 2 conditions, which are an amplified music limiting device must be installed which is capable of limiting music noise levels in specific octave band frequencies as detailed in Nova Acoustics Noise Impact Assessment, Table 8. The music limit level should be set as a baseline, and during calibration of the equipment, the limits level should be adjusted to achieve the adopted external noise level criteria at the nearest sensitive receptor facades as specified in Table 9 and 8 of Nova Acoustics Noise Impact Assessment. They've also agreed the condition that the outside seating area shall be closed at 2300 hours.
Lovely, thank you for that, Roy. It's a helpful clarification. So, Councillor Sergeant, Councillor Robbins, have you got any points of clarification or questions you'd like to ask the Councillor Sergeant?
No, I haven't.
Thank you, Chairman. Roy, can I just ask, these agreed conditions, are these what we are considering today? Are these what the council's agreed for this licence to be, for the council to say that they are in favour of this licence, or in favour of what the applicants are putting through for us to consider?
The conditions have been obviously offered in the applicant's operating schedule and have been considered, and they will be put in the licence. But most of the conditions have actually been agreed with Essex Police licensing team, and obviously now we have the 2 additional conditions from Environmental Health that means that they've removed their representation. So we're dealing with the public's representations. The word happy sort of doesn't come into it. I think they're satisfied, I would say. That would be a better word, that the police and Environmental Health are satisfied that there are steps in place that they don't need to make representations.
And can I just ask one more, please, Chairman? Once the equipment has been installed, does that get checked? Nothing against you guys, but it's just to make the public, give the public confidence that everything that's been installed and will work accordingly. Thank you.
Obviously, I can't speak fully for environment, but I would understand from past practices that obviously if we do get complaints regarding the noise from the premises, that would be the first point that we would mostly look at to make sure it did comply with those requirements. And obviously, if it didn't, then obviously it's a breach of licence conditions as well. So not only would they face issues from the noise team, they could actually face issues from the licensing team.
Thank you for those questions, Terry, and your responses, Roy. Just one extra from me, actually, on the kind of picks up on the point that Councillor Sargent has just raised around the kind of almost accountability and monitoring of the monitoring system. Kind of question is what's the reporting kind of procedure for the noise monitoring? So if there's a breach, for example, is that identified, or is it on the applicant to engage with the council to say that there's a breach? Is there anything you can say around that, Roy? Because hopefully, again, that will give comfort to residents. I appreciate one objection raised that a kind of a wish for noise monitoring or limitations. So is there anything you can mention around kind of reporting of what the monitoring systems pick up?
Yes, Chair. I mean, obviously, as in most premises, licensed premises, we have an environmental health pollution team who are a consult team, but they're also obviously there to pick up any complaints regarding noise. So if noise complaints come in, they would then take the steps necessary. If the complaints continued after the applicant or any premises was made aware that they did have a noise issue, then they would monitor it. Well, we do joint visits with pollution from time to time where necessary. And then, obviously, if it was felt that there were steps, they have their own legislation that they can follow regarding noise issues. And likewise, if they came to us and said there's a big enough problem there, they could ask for a review of the licence as well if the applicants and any licensed premises were not complying with their request to sort of get issues, the issue dealt with.
Thanks, Roy. There's no further questions or points of clarification for me. Just before we then move on, kind of Lee, Christina, Grant, is there any points of clarification you'd like to ask the licensing officer? Any questions you've got on from what you've heard?
Nothing really to ask. Just reassurance. Just like I said before, that the last thing we want to do is obviously put all the effort into this and start a business and start, upsetting people and upsetting neighbours, causing a disturbance. So again, it's just. Just wanted to reassure everyone that we'd take every steps necessary, not just managing the site during the night, but any steps precaution that we can do with soundproofing. It's really important to us as well. We just don't want we do not want to upset neighbours. We want them to enjoy our place and feel like it's a good addition to the high street. Certainly not being a nuisance to anyone. That's the last thing we want. So just express really again what I said before. Just how
clarification. Sorry to cut you off. I don't mean to be rude, but
no problem.
Just to clarify, we'll come to you straight afterwards to do kind of present your case in full for as long as you want. So
sure.
I just wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of ask any points of clarification to the licensing officer. So now, at that point, we'll come back to you. This is the bit for you to say your case and make your statement in full support of your application. So, fire away.
Okay. Sorry. Just going back on to what Roy was saying, just taking everything very seriously with regards to sound pollution and that kind of thing. We, like I say, last thing we want to do is upset Roy, have his staff come in at the weekends and make phone calls. It's obviously just not going to benefit anybody. And again, we appreciate that it's new territory, new neighbours, and we've already sort of started to build some of them relationships with neighbours as we've been on the new site. We've been meeting people, and it's actually been a really positive response from the neighbours. And obviously, we welcome them and want to try and make them part of it when we open. Overall, it's been a really nice positive response, and I think particularly because it's a relocation and not a new business, the general response from people seems to be very positive and seems to think it's going to elevate our business, and it's a natural progression to take us to the next step from our business. As mentioned before, we're going to be a bit more of a sort of coffee shop, sort of lounge during the day, more sort of like lunchtime stuff based on the location where we are. With that in mind as well, obviously we're going to be using a lot of local businesses and with the refurb and services already, as we already have with the plot and everything we're doing already. We're using local companies. So just as I basically expressed before, we've been running the place now for sort of 2 years, and we've learnt a lot in that time. Me and Christina were very hands-on. We're there all the time. We take our establishment very seriously. It's our livelihoods, and we're very grateful that we're in a position where we can relocate and we're not closing, because that was a reality not long ago. If we didn't have secured this venue, as you know, there's very limited opportunities in Billericay High Street, and the other option was that we close after only 2 years, which is not very long in business. And obviously, we're really fortunate that we found this premises, and yeah, we just want to do everything we can to give us the best start possible and continue what we're doing and continue planning and growing, which is something the last year with planning permission gone through on our current premises. It's been very difficult to navigate, to plan, to move forward, to build all the things that we've been doing in the first year of our business, which you do in your first year. We've had to put on hold, and even as much as so as only really realising now, this early December, that it looks like we're good to trade for December. We couldn't even be sure on that 2 months ago. It's looking like we are. There's no sight of building on the premises or anything to indicate online that there's anything going forward just yet. So again, we've only really just feel like we're good to go to Christmas. We've had that anxiety of worrying actually of if building starts on our current premises, what a start that would be to our new venture, letting everybody down over Christmas, never mind the financial problems that would cause as well. It would have been a real disaster. So yeah, we're really feeling fortunate that we've actually got this opportunity at place, and obviously we just want to make the most of it and give it our best shot and continue growing and doing what we're doing, but actually everything we're doing, try and make it better this time. Actually, we just got an opportunity to just improve everything. So looking at the positives, in which was initially quite a negative situation, feeling a bit more optimistic and positive about it now, and yeah, it's been a really good response, and yeah, it's been a bit stressful, but yeah, looking forward to carrying on the business and growing and having that stability, I think is the word. We've got a long-term lease, and yeah, being positive about it all.
Lovely, thank you for that, Lee. Christina, Grant, is there anything extra you'd like to add at this point?
I could probably talk. I've got a sheet of paper here. I didn't even look. I just speak from the heart, tell you how it is, what is going on, and that's all I can do really. If you guys have got any questions for me, anything that I can answer, I'm more than happy to.
Lovely, thank you, Lee. Again, before I go to the other subcommittee members, I thought, yes, kind of one or two questions from me, really. So, it sounds callous, and I appreciate how passionate it is and how passionate you are kind of running a business, as I run a business myself. But I think that the merits of investment in the high street is not up for discussion this morning. I think for the purposes of the licensing, subcommittee meeting today, is what we're interested in is upholding the licensing objectives, and you did kind of touch on that in your speech, which I was pleased to hear. But I think just to kind of come on to some of the objections we've received, I think there's only around 8, but some of those specifically highlight licensing objectives. I'm thinking around prevention of public nuisance, public safety, prevention of crime and disorder, and protection of children from harm. So is there anything extra, Lee, you'd like to say on those licensing objectives and how you will uphold those?
Yeah, sure. No, all valid points and questions, and obviously safety on the high street is important everywhere. I think I mentioned before, with regards to obviously extra resources and increasing resources, as Roy pointed out earlier, we have a good rapport with police licensing. Touchwood, we have a fantastic reputation, which is great. So we aim to obviously maintain that. We would like to reassure the people worrying about these things, the stretched resources, children out on the high streets, that obviously we will we do everything we can to just continue keeping everybody safe. Me and Christina are hands-on. We'll be on site all the time, making sure, more importantly than ever, that, like I say, people feel safe. Just going back to my point, about stretching resources and that kind of thing, I think it was important to remember that we are relocating the business again, like I said before, and it's not an initial new business. So I'd like to think already that we can provide a little bit of confidence in people that we already run a tight ship where we are. And again, I take everyone's concerns very serious, obviously, especially with children. I think where we run the bar, I think it's might be a little bit sort of from the outside looking cocktail bar, daytime, rowdiness. Again, as I said before, we're going to be a cocktail bar in the shop. We don't sell much alcohol in the week at all, if any. Our day week trade is very minimal with alcohol sales, and I'm actually expecting that to be the same, as we will be pushing more coffee, more daytime, lunchtime option. So with regards to daytime safety and congregation, people hanging around the high street, it's just something that's not going to happen. You're probably going to have more, that happening is going to be happening more around pubs where people are drinking during the day, where obviously we'll be selling alcohol. We'd love to sell cocktails and wine if we can, but I think during the week particularly it will be more lunchtime offerings, so there shouldn't be any concerns of worrying about rowdiness in the week, anybody hanging around the streets and that kind of thing.
Every day of the week. Sorry to kind of press you.
Oh, of course, yeah, but I'd like...
Seeing as some of the hours of booking
Yeah.
licenses for are kind of later into the evening.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think, obviously, children shouldn't be hanging around the streets too late at night, at 11 o'clock anyway. But with that in mind as well, the hours we applied for is like the maximum what we would ever be open to, obviously. We probably realistically, during the week, as you know, midweek trade in bars and stuff, probably, you know, 10 o'clock, 9:30. Sometimes we want to be consistent with our opening hours, but the reality is actually we'll probably be closing earlier, if anything, with the allocated hours. And same with the weekends. Currently our licence to 1:30, we actually close at 1. We don't want to be the late place. You know, although we could trade a bit longer, we actually we don't want people coming to our venue late. We don't want to be the late place where people congregate and, you know, come to the end of their night and cause any bother or anything like that. So the hours that we laid out do kind of look from an outside perspective quite scary actually, but realistically we'll probably be closing 1 o'clock at weekends, 1:30 latest, and midweek trade, you know, if you only have to go up the high street and see it's pretty much closed by 10 o'clock during the week. So we've just put them extra hours into them Christmas late nights, them nights we've got a work Christmas party and we need to have that later, or till 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. That's why we put it in there. But realistically, we're not going to be really trading to them late hours most times as well, which is hopefully something which can be a bit more not so scary to residents as well, worrying about the late night congregation and people outside on the streets and that kind of thing. Where as well, as mentioned before, our general clientele, it's an older age group as well. We sort of it's sort of like an average age of probably 40, but not just that, we do have mixed age groups, which is great, which I think is really nice if you can have a mixed groups of age group. Average age of 40, that goes across the spectrum, but yeah, no, it really is. As I think it shows it all, our Christmas parties we've got booked this year, everybody's returning. We've got so many vets, doctors, trains, all returning customers, all mixed of age groups, and like I say, you know, it's a nice, comfortable space and welcoming for everybody, and we want to keep it that way as well. So hopefully the hours wasn't too off-putting to everybody on paper, because they do look a bit scary.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much for that kind of extra kind of testimony, Lee. Kind of one extra one from me before I then go to the other subcommittee members. And again, it picks up on another point that has been mentioned or suggested from some of the resident representations. Is there kind of anything you can mention to the subcommittee around the training of security staff? Because I know sometimes it can be quite common, but again, I think for the benefit of everyone listening and for the subcommittee, if you could run through kind of the training procedures for staff members, the staffing on the door, particularly for Friday and Saturday night, as well as, I suppose, standard for every week, but yeah, particularly for the Friday and Saturday, where you'd be looking for, you know, to serve alcohol between 10 a.m. and 1:30 a.m.
Yeah, sure. So also discussing with Martin before this hearing, we've agreed to do the security training where somebody would actually have a camera on them as well, so they're monitored, which is another bit of reassurance, so we can actually see and monitor how we work. We've been fortunate that we've had the same door staff since we've opened, the same 2 gentlemen, which is great. Obviously, you want people that know how things are done, the way we like things to be done. We're very fortunate that the gentlemen that work for us, they are gentlemen, and again, we've not had to sort of see any other sort of, we're fortunate that we've not had to see any sort of major escalations, anything like that. So it's very important to us. The security are the first people that are greeted on your entrance to the door. So that first interaction to us is really important. If you're greeted with sort of bad energy and stuff, you can take that into a venue. So our doormen are very polite, professional. We brief them every night before we start. So we have a little chat. We tell them what's going on, what functions we've got. We make them aware of who's coming. So, for example, we have surprise parties and that kind of thing. We have a system where certain men manage certain areas on certain doors. Radio mics, always charged before. In regards to end of night, obviously making sure people are leaving safely, nobody's left outside unattended, making sure cabs are called for everybody. These are responsibilities that security take on, as well as myself, as Christina as well. Obviously watching things like glasses, bottles, anything like that being left, leaving the premises or anything like that. This is something they keep an eye on. And like I say, with regards to training, the next step for us will be, after the hearing, is to get this thing going with Martin, the thing he wants to introduce with the online training, which is going to be across the board, not just security. I believe it's going to be staff as well. And we've agreed to go ahead and, like I say, have a camera, one of our doormen at least, wearing a camera on his thing, so it can, peace of mind, you can actually see and see how things are being managed and maintained as well from our door staff.
Lovely, thank you for that, Lee. And just to kind of dig down a bit deeper, is it referring to Martin Howlett, I think, as a licensing specialist with Essex Police, and I think,
Sorry, Martin Knights is a police licensing officer.
There we go. So Martin Howlett, as a council officer. So there's so many names to remember. So Martin, just to clarify, I think that goes back to the point that you're working closely with licensing specialists as Essex Police to follow best practice or ideally adopt best practice. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lee. So that's kind of it from me for now. So Councillor Robbins, Councillor Sargent, have you got any questions or points? So Val will go to you and then you afterwards, Sarah.
Can I just confirm with you, if you've got a Friday and Saturday night, you can be open till 2. So when do you stop selling alcohol?
Okay, Christina, is this one you want to answer?
Yes, we probably will. If we were to have the license till 2, we'll stop serving at 1. So then, by the time everyone finishes the drinks, and everyone will be finished by 1:30.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
We have the late licence till 2, but like I just explained, I think that's only in like special cases, if we've got like an extension or a special party.
Yeah,
I think
I'm just trying to, worst case scenario, to say, right, and when is your...
I think worst case scenario, if we were open till 2, I think the last service would actually be 1:15. 1:15 would be a bit later than 1 o'clock. Closing at 2, you would do last service 1:15, and everybody would be out of the building by sort of 1:45 out, in that sense, with a 2 o'clock.
Right.
So, hang on, sorry. I'm just going to bring in Roy here. There's something you want to mention. Roy's licensing officer.
Thank you, Chair. The original application was till 2 o'clock for the sale of alcohol, but following discussions with Essex Police, that was reduced to 1:30 to allow for half-hour dispersal, a wind-down time, so between the end of sale of alcohol until the premises closes.
Right, okay then. And if you're open till 2 again, when would your last admission be?
We wouldn't like last admission any later than 12 o'clock. We're aiming for midnight sort of last admission if we can.
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't be letting anybody in sort of closer to 2, 1:30. That'd be too late. If we were open till 2, 1 o'clock absolute latest. I would say closing at 1:30, it'd be 12 o'clock last admission.
Right,
Something
okay.
else I spoke with Martin licensing about as well.
And finally, with regard to the door staff, now I have worked in the licensed trade, so I'm aware of what your problems are a lot of the time. Now, your door staff are professional, they've worked with you a long time. Are they SIA qualified, and then you do your additional training?
Yes.
Yeah, right, okay. Now, the bit you said about the cameras, I feel very strongly that those cameras are for that person's protection as well as your customer. And so many times I hear of cameras being, it was switched off. It's not in the interests of the public or to make sure that you check that their cameras are on for your protection. That's because people lie.
Sorry, Roy, you'd like to come back in?
I'll just add, now most of the ones we're seeing at the moment, cameras, are permanently on. so they're a permanent feed. So there's no need to actually turn the camera on. The camera is a permanent feed. Most of the ones that Martin is recommending, Martin Knights is recommending, the police licence, are just a permanent feed, so they're on permanently.
They're on all the time.
Yes.
Right, no, that's fair enough. But I'm just concerned about.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Councillor Robbins. Councillor Sargent, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chairman. Kind of admire you for opening up. I know you've just gone into you're coming from another premise, but I mean, with much that we see in your trade, there's so many people closing that it's good to see someone that's opening, that is reopening. But obviously, we have had complaints from the public, and I think you've been good in responding to those complaints, but they must always be at the at the forefront of your minds when you've got your business going, because it's great to be up and going and serving people, but what we don't want is those 4 licensing objectives to fall down. They must be there to protect yourselves, the public, and the people that are living outside and obviously within the area. It doesn't seem to me that you have had any problems in the past, so one would hope that you would carry on in the way that you have demonstrated today, because obviously those conditions from the licensing weren't there before, but they're there now, and you have given us reassurance that will be working, and obviously the council they'll be monitoring it, but what reassurance can you give us once it's all installed that it is up and running and you're going to have it maintained in a proper manner? Because obviously that's one issue with residents when people say, oh, the noise of that pub, and people say, well, don't move near a pub. Well, you're coming into a high street, not just going into a residential area, and there's going to be people walking up and down at all times, not, going to and from, and obviously you need to keep it a nice balance of a business, and I'm sure that we would all like to see your business prosper, truly, but we need your reassurance that everything that you've said today you will carry out, because obviously those objections that we have had, those people, particularly if they're going to watch this hearing, they will want to know that we as councillors have questioned you to ensure that you will be uppermost of their objections and make sure that you keep according to the law and the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chairman.
I do talk too much. Thanks for the nice comments about the business. I think if you ask myself now if we were going to start a new business, I probably wouldn't be so brave. But the fact that we've had 2 years, and like I said earlier, and we're relocating and not closing, I think that's a sign of that we've done really well in a really difficult climate with high street shops and closing everywhere. As you said, it's really scary and it's really worrying, and I can absolutely see how it's happening as well, how pubs are not surviving. We've got certain things with our business like private hire, where we have guaranteed footfall, where celebrations, birthday parties. This is what puts us above the water, really. This is the difference between not relying on a high street, which a lot of other pubs and bars are. They're relying on people being out, where we are doing birthday parties, and reality is they're the only really things that get people out these days, is if you've got to go out to a celebration or a birthday. So Yeah, thank you for that. I'm not so sure if I would do it if we hadn't already done the 2 years, but like I say, very grateful that we're relocating because it is expensive as well. So we're fully aware it's going to be another big investment and a lot more money that we've got to pay back. So we've really got to make it work. So with that in mind, we want to comply. We really don't want to upset anybody. We appreciate locals' concerns about a new bar. But as I said, I think just like every other bars, we're only going to have music on Friday and Saturday nights. It's not going to be like music during the day. It's going to be a coffee shop, just a bit of background music. We've got no intentions of having loud music outside. And I think you'll see me and Christina when we first open, we're going to make sure that we're just on top of absolutely everything, because the last thing we want is the calls coming in, the complaints, and giving you guys reasons to things that we're going against the things that we've said. It's too noisy. So with that in mind as well, we'll be in close contact with Roy and all the licensing, making sure that when we install the sound limiter, that we're in close work with the acoustic people, so it's standard and working and everything. And like I say, I'm sure when these things are installed and we start testing music and stuff, I'm sure Roy and will like to see it and come in and see it all working and stuff. So we will be working very closely to make sure that the things we've agreed with sound limiting, making sure people are not in the garden. We just don't want to breach any of these licensing things that we've agreed on. So would like to guarantee you that we'll do absolutely everything we can to give everyone a hassle-free life and make sure we give the business the best shout. And like I say, hopefully neighbours will get on board with what we're doing, and we would love to see them in the bar as customers. And yeah, we'd like to obviously still be there in a long time to come. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lee. Any further questions from you, Councillor Sargent? Lovely. At that point, so and say any final ones, Lee? Okay. So yeah, at this point, normally move on to kind of steps 4 and 5, and hand over to any responsible authorities or other persons in the room. But as there are none, we'll move ahead and kind of go to the final points before we then deliberate and come to a decision. I think in terms of kind of leading a discussion, really, we've heard from the licensing officer, we've heard from the applicant, particularly around the work that has been done with people like the environmental health team, with Essex Police, to agree a schedule of conditions that should hopefully uphold the licensing objectives. And of course, we've heard again how I think extra measures, you've taken extra measures to address the comments that have been raised by residents who may worry that kind of 4 of the licensing objectives around prevention of public nuisance, public safety, prevention of crime and disorder, and protection of children from harm might be undermined. So I think kind of those seem to be the crux of the points, really. And obviously, I'll note that there's no longer an objection from environmental health. There was never an objection in the first place from Essex Police either, which I think is well worth noting, and almost a testament to the work that the applicant has put in working with the council responsible authorities. So I kind of think with that bit of a précis of kind of the key issues and the discussion and on the evidence presented so far, I think as soon as I've said, there's no further questions or points of clarification to either the licensing officer or the applicant. I think we'll move to a bit of a summing up. So I'll go to you first, Roy, if there's anything you want to say in summing up, and then we'll go to the applicant before we then break up to come to a decision.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got nothing to add. Thank you.
Just to say, Lee, kind of in line with the procedure, no new evidence at this point, but if there's any summing up you'd like to do, Lee.
No, nothing else to add. Thank you.
Lovely. And as there's kind of no elements of final clarification, anyone seeking, the subcommittee will now withdraw with the governance officer and the legal officer to deliberate all the evidence presented and come to decisions. So, we'll bring you back into the room once the decision is made and for us to announce it. So, thank you. thank you for waiting patiently outside, everybody. The subcommittee has come to decision, and I will now read out the formal decision notice. So, decision: application for premises licence, Christie's Bar, 93 to 95 High Street, Billericay. In reaching its decision, the subcommittee has taken into account the relevant parts of the written and oral evidence before them, the relevant parts of the Council's statement of licensing policy, and the relevant parts of the guidance issued by the Secretary of State. The subcommittee has determined as follows. So, the decision: to grant the application for a premises licence subject to the following additional conditions. Number 1, an amplified music limiting device must be installed which is capable of limiting music noise levels in specific octave band frequencies as detailed in Nova Acoustics Noise Impact Assessment. The music limit levels should be set as a baseline, and during calibration of the equipment, the limit levels should be adjusted to achieve the adopted external noise level criteria at nearest sensitive receptor facades. Number 2, the outside seating area shall be closed at 11 p.m. Number 3, the sale of alcohol licence applies as follows: Sunday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 p.m, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1:30 a.m, and compliance with the mandatory conditions contained within the operating schedule as set out in Annex 1 as attached. So the reason for the decision: after hearing from the licensing officer, who described the 2 additional proposed conditions agreed between Environmental Health and the applicant, and additional representations from the applicant, the subcommittee was satisfied that the licensing objectives would be upheld and promoted. So, final part, the right of appeal. There is a right of appeal against this decision to the Essex Magistrates Court. An appeal must be commenced within 21 days, beginning with the day on which you receive the decision notice, and apply for review. There's an ability to apply for review of the licence to the licensing authority after a reasonable interval. You'll need to supply evidence of an effect on the 4 licensing objectives. Forms are available for completion from the licensing authority. So that is the decision notice read out, and that concludes the hearing. So thank you for attending, everybody.